All right. I think I maybe figured this out. This is my 5th time. It does seem to be, this is them on the moon right now. Okay. Anyways. Technical difficulties, not fun. We'll just start off with the spider story. I have another one. This was the worst one so far. And I'm doing my laundry midday. I get a hanger out of my closet. I get my shirt, put the shirt on the hanger, have the shirt like this, and I'm moving the clothes. And all of a sudden on my hand, I look down, big old spider crawling on, dude. Size of my hand, bro. Fling him to the ground, on the ground. Oh, I get the spray. He's gone though when I come back with the spray. I look back, I'm trying to find him. I find him, he runs. I go to the other side, he's coming around. God. Anyways, I eventually get him, but it ruffled my feathers to such a high degree. It's just, oh, shocked. Whoa. Spiders that size are just, they're not the vibe, dude. And look at this, bro. I'll show you. I'll show you him. I took a picture of him before we did our duel. So here we go. I named this one Professor Nope. There you go. That's him. That's a big freaking spider, dude. So the opposite of any type of vibe that you want to have. So yeah, that was not good. That was a freaking ass. And then I'm getting sick of that. And then I'm getting sick of the freaking spiders. Get out of here. And then, turns out Roger is a female. And she laid eggs behind the mirror and they hatched. And I'll show you the eggs. Here you go. Hold on. And it's really weird. The eggs stick to the wall and then they hatch. So here it is. This is the eggs. Interesting, huh? Anyway, so Gecko City around here. And weirdly last night, here's the thing. If I'm being fully honest, I'm getting used to most of the bugs, but the big spiders and the geckos are just doing what they want these days. They're not that scared. And I go upstairs the other day and it's a 3 gecko party on the ceiling and they're just up there hanging out. And then when I go to bed, this is so weird. 2 of the geckos were up on the ceiling face to face. And it looked like, I couldn't see because they were way up there, but it looked like their mouths were biting each other. And they're face to face, not moving on the wall, mouths biting each other. And I'm like, what's going on? So I Googled about it and I couldn't find anything about it. Super weird. So I just go to bed and they're just up there doing that and then making out or fighting. I couldn't tell what. But I wake up later, I don't know how later, to pee. They're still up there. Just same thing. And I was like, what the heck? So in the morning they were finally gone, but it was weird. And I don't know why they were doing that. And I feel weird at night. I have my bug net around my bed, but I'm just like, dude, there's so much going on. Sometimes I hear because I think it's a lizard or a gecko falling from the ceiling. They're crawling or they're fighting and then one falls on the floor and I could just hear it. I'm like, okay. But there's just so much bugs and animals around me while I sleep. So I'm becoming a wild man. I'm growing my beard. I'm becoming wild nature. But I can be so loud here, which I love. But I'm going a little crazy. Yesterday was one of my least favorite days because I kind of had a little, not a freak out, but I was so uneasy all day because I have an insanely consistent routine, right? Well, I go in the bathroom about 10 a.m. after my workout and I noticed it looked like someone just took a shower. It was fully wet. There was water on the glass. There was water all on the floor. The mat was wet. The shower was dripping. And I was like, who took a shower? Not me. The last shower I took was at freaking 8 p.m. the previous night. So I'm either I leave the doors open all day. So I'm either someone snuck in and took a shower. I have Alzheimer's and I took a shower and forgot. My hair wasn't wet. I would have known if I took a shower. I do the same thing every day. Or I took a sleepwalking shower. And I was like, weird. So I was just all day, I'm like checking everywhere, like in the closet and like looking around for someone and like, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to do an experiment because the shower was dripping. So sure enough, today when I woke up, I checked the shower, which was completely dry. So I was like, okay, it does dry overnight. It's not like it just stays wet overnight because I take a shower at night. But then I was like, okay, let me get a little teeny drip going and leave it for a few hours and see how wet the shower gets. And it got super wet. Basically, I was like, okay, if I left it dripping all night, it would have got as wet as it was. So I figured that's just what 99% sure what happened. But sleeping that night, I'm like double locking all the doors. I'm like, it just freaks me out. And I'm kind of crazy because I'm alone. So I'm just like kind of go crazy a little bit. But so that was kind of off putting. And then another thing that's kind of weird is that I might just be reading into it, but my host, she's a very nice woman. She's probably 40, 50 or something. And she comes here like once a week maybe and to clean and like brings me a water jug and like whatever. And we'll talk a little bit. But the last time she came, we were talking for a while. I was asking her about Hinduism. We were talking about the geckos, talking about all kinds of stuff and whatever. So she texts me after and she's like, hey, what do you do in the evenings? And I was like, I just work until I go to bed. I wind down at 8 and then I go to bed at 9. And she's like, oh, I thought maybe you relax in the evening. I was like, nah. She's like, do you drink beer? I was like, no, I don't drink alcohol. And she's like, oh, sorry. I thought maybe it would be fun to drink beer and relax in the garden or hang out or something. And I was like, you did? I don't know. Maybe she just wants to be homies. I don't know, whatever. It's kind of weird. But anyways, I was like, oh, I'm super busy, but I'll let you know if I get some free time and I want to, I'll tell you. And she's like, okay, never mind. So I was like, it's kind of weird. Now it's got a bit of a weird vibe, I will say. But she also was like, if you go to the Dolphins, bring me to the Dolphins. I was like, okay. So maybe I'll go to the Dolphins with her. And then I'm thinking about going with that guy, Manku, that took care of us at the other house last time I was here. So me, her, and Manku can go. But anyways, that was that. There was an old lady when I was getting my food walking up the street, smiles at me, 2 teeth only, right? Like, like a freaking classic, like gummy smile, really old, trucking up this super steep hill. And then she starts yelling shit at me and like, and like, I was like, I only speak English. And she's like, ha, and laughing and yelling and pointing. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying, lady. But man, she was like a character, like a cartoon character of an old lady, like just so full gummy smile, these funny teeth. And she's like all bent over and like, ah. And I was like, whoa, this is this crazy looking person right now yelling at me. Which is funny because I haven't left the house for 20 days. So the other day I went out past the gate and I just walked out like 15 steps or like a couple of feet out and just like looked around at the houses around, which I've never seen. And it was like exhilarating. I was like, wow, like I wonder what's up the street and like what's around here, because I'm just stuck in this like little garden. It's so funny. I was like, man, it was so exhilarating going like 20 feet outside the gate. So funny. Okay, that's that. Let's go. Okay, I'm gonna walk you through my post real quick, and then I got a lot more to talk about. So, if you're curious about my Bible adventures, you're gonna want to watch. Okay, so, and you can see my new format here. So check it out. What I'm wondering about. Let's go. What was Lego's revenue in 2024? Turns out it was 11 billion. That's crazy. What's J.K. Rowling's real name? Joanne. How many stars are there? Insane amount. This gets weird. Okay, ready? This gets weird. This is surprising. So let's see how many stars there are. 100 billion to 400 billion approximately. Now guess this. How many do you think you can see from Earth? How many stars can you see from Earth? When you look at the night sky, how many are in there? Okay, Perplexity's saying 4 to 9,000. And they're like, it's 9,000 if you're on a mountaintop on a clear night, on a very clear night, it's 9,000 tops that you can see. Which to me is like low. I was like, I would think it was like 50, I would think it was like a million or like something, it's like 9,000 or 4,000 stars. Because I was thinking about in the Bible when God says to Abraham, I will make your descendants outnumber the stars. Well, I'm like, dude, it's like 100 billion, 400 billion stars. So I'm like, how reasonable is that? But if they didn't know there was that many stars and it was just how many you can see in the sky, 9,000 people, like Israel got to 600,000 strong, like in the Bible. So it does make sense. Interesting. But so that was a one thing that was surprising to me. Are the tombs of Abraham and Sarah in Israel actually real or just a shrine? So apparently if you go to Israel, the tombs from the Bible where Abraham was buried, you can go there and there's these shrines, and then they're apparently buried under the building, like in the tombs under the building. It's apparently where they are. But it's not 100% true. It's just what they say. They don't know if it's 100% true or if they're in there. They haven't went in there. They can just know that it's a tomb, but they don't know who's in there. But maybe they're in there. That's crazy. And then my last one. Do the majority of Jews in Israel think they are actually God's chosen people and deserve the land they are on, like the Torah says? I think it was about 50% yes. Think that. Yeah, 56 to 64 of Jewish Israelis identify with this belief. So that's surprising, and it makes sense why they, the conflicts, right? This is my YouTube video I published a week ago. If you want to check it out, everything I own in one video. This Jordan Peterson video, which I'll get to in a minute. I'm reading the Old Testament. I just got to Judges. So I got through Joshua, though. This is what's crazy. Joshua's a savage. When they're going through Canaan, he'll get the kings, and he's freaking Vlad the Impaler's them, bro. Gets the kings, puts them on a spike. What? How crazy is that? I was like, damn, Joshua's a savage. I didn't know. And man, I just read this story today in Judges. So there's a guy called, forget his name, he's got a weird name. This is pretty far later, but he has to fight a bunch of enemy tribes for Israel. He tells God, hey, if you let me win, I will give you a burnt offering of whatever comes out of my house when I get home, which is a weird deal to make. It almost sounds like, well, I don't know. Anyways, he gets home. Guess who comes out of his house? His only child, his daughter, playing the tambourine and singing a song for her dad. So he goes, no, what the heck? Tears his clothes. He says, I gotta burn you now. And she's like, oh yeah, if you told God you're gonna burn me, you gotta burn me. But first, will you let me go mourn in the mountains with my friends for 2 months, since I will die a virgin and have no children? So he says, yeah, go ahead. So she goes up there for 2 months, and who knows what they did up there. But anyways, mourns for 2 months with her friends, and then comes back. And he burns her alive. Or I don't know if he burns her alive, but he gives her as a burnt offering, kills her. And it's pretty sad. Pretty weird. And, here's the thing. If you look at the metaphorical meaning of it, it basically amounts to, do not make promises you don't want to keep. Be very careful what promises you keep and what you vow, basically. It's like that point of that story that's what it is. But also very, very important to keep your vows. So I was reading in the Bible this week. Okay, songs. She loves the days better when the sun goes down. So good. Teddy Swims, bro. I've been listening to this so much. Oh my God, it's so good. I love it. Oh, it's such a good vibe. I love it. Wow, I love it so much. I listen to it so much. This vitamin me. It's like one of those artists that they do a reel of their song, and it's like so funny. It's like a joke because it's so awkward and weird. And this song is like the best song, but I love it. I really do listen to it, and I love it. And I'm like, man, this guy's getting clowned online, but vitamin me. And it's like super cheesy and funny, but it's a banger. So anyways, okay, so now I'll get to this. So here's the thing. This is going to take a minute maybe, so strap in. I'll be honest. I watched that Jordan Peterson video with Jubilee, and I'll show you a clip of it. I think it's the main clip. He basically will not claim to be a Christian. And originally it was titled Jordan Peterson versus 20 Christians, or one Christian versus 20 atheists.
You say that.
Let's see if we can hear this. Yeah, so this is the clip.
Haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
Don't be a smartass.
Either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Anyways, yeah, so that was rough. And basically the thing is, Jordan Peterson like won't claim to be a Christian, right? And everyone who's watched him knows this thing when he gets asked if he believes in God, he kind of goes into these weird semantics. What do you mean by believe? And it's like he's known for like swerving it. But so it's kind of weird, and I don't understand why he won't just say what he really thinks or believes. It's like so complicated that I think what happens is it's so complicated to him, he can't just explain it in 10 minutes, right? It's like the nature of reality and belief in God and all these questions are so weird and metaphysical and crazy. Like, you can't just say, I am this, I believe this, right? It's this insanely complex belief, what that even means, right? And I think most people just can't get it, and I don't think he can explain it easily, but I just wish he would explain that, right? But who knows? But anyways, he said he triggered this insane spiral for me where in that interview, he talks about this thing in Exodus where God positions Moses wants to see God. So God positions Moses behind these two cliffs with like a slit and then walks by as Moses is looking through and only shows him his back. And Jordan Peterson was saying like, oh, the point of this story is basically if you think of God as like divine being, like being with a capital B, everything, right? Like existence is God. This story means that humans cannot comprehend that fully, right? That's why you can't look upon the true face of God in the Bible. Anyway, so that idea and the way he conceptualizes God in this debate, which I'd heard before, but being that I'm reading the Torah right now and the Old Testament, it was just very compelling. So I was like, damn. So I go watch a couple other Jordan Peterson videos and I go down these rabbit holes, and then I get to his Exodus series on the Daily Wire which I'll show you what this is. And I'm getting rocked, right? Because I made an entire video on my thoughts after reading the Torah and scrapped it because this shit blew my mind so much. So you'll see here, this is just like a little glimpse of like what the series is, but here I'll show you. So
all the Egyptian gods have been vanquished, and now the firstborn, that's an encapsulation of the tradition of Egypt, is being killed, right, while the Israelites are being spared. So it's the ultimate decimation of the tradition of the Egyptians.
And so it's like right in the text, a few verses from each other, you see the people have compassion for the Israelites, and then it says, no, but their children are going to die too. So that's why I feel like there is a sense in which we're meant to have compassion, even for the Egyptians in the narrative.
Much of this calls for the radical acceptance of that. You certainly see that in Christianity with the idea of the sacrifice of the Lamb of God, but obviously that idea stems from this idea and this practice.
yeah, anyway, so that shit is crazy, and he's got all these dudes on there, and it's 16 episodes. I think it's like 35 hours of him, and like he's got religious scholars. That dude Jonathan Pajau is like an artist, and like he's got like narrative screenwriters. He's got Dennis Prager, who knows like ancient Hebrew, like speaks and reads ancient Hebrew, so the whole time he's like saying what the actual Bible says. So I'm watching this and I'm just getting absolutely mind blown by these things. And so I was like, dang, I got to scrap the video I made, because so much of this stuff, I get so caught up in trying to read it literally and being like, this story makes no sense. The thing is, as I start to grasp a hold of this concept of God that Jordan Peterson puts forward, which is like not a sky daddy bearded God who like does stuff in the world and like smites people and does things. It's just this metaphorical sense as if God was everything. God is existence. God is the entire package. And then these stories aim to describe reality, which is God, which is everything. So these stories, God did X, right? It's like, when you view it through that lens, everything starts to have so much more meaning and make so much more sense. And this is, in my opinion, is why when if you know about Christianity or God or whatever, like white bread version, God is so many things, right? It's like God is like a jealous God. He's omnipotent. He's all knowing. He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And there's like a trillion names for God, right? And a trillion ways that describe him. Like he's mad and he's pure love and he's blah, blah, he's all these things. Well, how would you be all of these things? It's if you're everything, right? And God's everywhere at once, right? So he's everything. If you're everywhere, you would be everything, right? So it's like thinking of God in this way, not as like a necessarily conscious thing, but like reality itself. All this stuff starts to make infinitely more sense. So I'm like, okay, I want to start reading it more through that lens. And it's so much less frustrating, right? And these stories are set up that way. Like when I was talking about the dude who has to kill and burn his daughter, right? The idea that you would make a pact with God that you're going to burnt offering whatever comes out of your house when you get back from war. What's going to possibly come out of your house besides a person or an animal or something, right? It's like, and so the fact that God's like, bet, like, okay, and lets him win, right? So God takes the bet, knowing that the daughter's going to come out and that he's going to have to sacrifice his daughter, so, which he does. The only way this story really makes sense is if it's meant to describe a property of reality, which is you'll get roasted if you make the wrong promise, right? Like, don't make the wrong promise. Don't make the wrong pact. Do not promise the wrong thing, etc., right? And so this is how you learn from the Bible, in my opinion. And so I've been just going down this freaking bananas rabbit hole watching these videos and trying to conceptualize for myself, right? And then another way he conceptualized God is the greatest good, right? The highest ideal. He has this very interesting thing he keeps talking about, which is when you think about worship and you think about what God you worship, basically the way humans are set up is that worship can be the same thing as attention. Whatever you care about, whatever you attend to, whatever you put your attention on, that is your God. That is what you worship. Doesn't matter what you say, right? If you say, oh, I worship God, but all your attention is on something else all the time, that's what you worship really, right? It doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what you say. The point is that worshiping God means to focus and aim at the highest good, right? At the highest pinnacle conception of whatever good is. And that's what a lot of these stories are when people were sacrificed for God, right? You're sacrificing for the greater good, for the ideal. And aiming up, constantly having to do these sacrifices and having your tabernacle and your clothes and your festivals and everything remind you of the greater good, constantly focusing yourself on the greater good or the highest thing you can conceptualize. And basically that's the best way to live, right? That's how to have a good life and a good society and a good family. These are the ideas that are in the Torah, basically. It seems like we have a connection issue, but it's okay because I'm recording this. But refresh. That's a big rant. Sorry about that. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, it's really, really shifting my worldview in a pretty big way. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, really. And so that's why I'm watching all this stuff. But it's pretty interesting. But it's just funny to me how many people think that like the Old Testament is like literally true. Like they believe in these literal stories. And it's weird I hope this is still working, but 1 second. Go to my studio account and make sure I'm still streaming. Yeah. Live. Okay, here we go. The Wi-Fi here is not the best Wi-Fi, so I'll say that. Okay. It doesn't say what kind of connection I have. Anyways, whatever. So the point is, it's very interesting. And so I'm learning as I'm going. So I'm going to just rip through the whole Bible and try to get a good idea of it. But what I was saying about people literally believing it, it's so funny because on this Exodus series I'm watching, you have this guy, Dennis Prager, who knows the ancient Hebrew. And they're reading the King James Version. And constantly, he'll stop him. He'll be like, that's not what the Hebrew is. the original Hebrew translation of the Bible actually is this word, which means this. And then the whole thing gets flipped on its head and totally changes the meaning, right? Totally changes the context and the meaning. And so it's like you got all these people reading the King James thinking they know what it says. And even my Bible aligns with the King James pretty closely, the one I'm reading, the NLT. And it's just wrong, which is why I'm like, this isn't a freaking divine book in the terms of it was intentionally designed by an intentional divine being to be true, because it's like we can't even get the freaking translations through, right? So it just makes no freaking sense. But it is a product of humans figuring out how reality works, and reality works in weird ways. We don't fully understand it too. So I'm not saying that there's not something to this idea of God, this cosmological, like ever-present thing that's like has certain properties we don't understand that come to light in the creation of the Bible, right? Because of how it was created and put together. But it's not, I just think it's not how normal people conceptualize the Bible being like the true living word of God and like it's the truth Bible. Like I just don't think it just doesn't make any sense. But if you look at it from the metaphorical sense, it makes perfect sense. Everything makes perfect sense. Not perfect sense, but a trillion times more sense. So it's like an Occam's razor thing. But I could go on that forever, which I will in a YouTube video when after I finish this Exodus series. I'm gonna redo my Torah video. And then the last thing I'll say is that I've been doing the Sabbath. So last Monday was my first one, and I did a music Sabbath. So I did no work besides just music. Whatever I want to do music, I do music all day and live stream. And just live stream it and do music and hang out and not worry about anything. And that was good. So I'm going to do that again this week as well. The next thing I'll say is I'll let you know how that goes. I'm still trying to figure it out because partially I was talking to a family member and I was saying how in the Bible with the Sabbath, if you break the Sabbath, you die. You get stoned, right? They stone a guy for gathering wood on the Sabbath. So there's something to do with in the desert with the Israelites and all these laws God gives them and how strict it is and the punishments are so harsh that I think there's something to be said about the rigidity. If you have your ideal, right, your goal, like you're aiming up at this goal that's like what you worship and what you care about and what you focus on and what your life is about, whatever it is, you want to have strict laws and strict rules about how you interact with that to keep it sacred, right? Because it's like, it makes something so much more important, right? It's like, the idea is like, okay, it maybe doesn't seem important, or like you can get in this, you get used to it, right? So you let things slide, right? But if you have to sacrifice a goat towards this ideal every time you slip, right, you take it a lot more seriously. And then if you take it more seriously, that's how you really get the outcome you want. That's how you are able to defeat your enemies. And that's how you're able to multiply your blessings and stuff like that, is if you keep strong on these ideals and these things. So partially with the Sabbath, I want to try that, like setting it like strictly and seeing what it's like to have strict freaking rules. Like if it's no phone gets locked in the box and it's no phone. It's no calling 911 if it's an emergency, no phone. Like you keep the rule. But then obviously I want to be careful about what rules I have for myself. So I'm kind of experimenting and trying as I go. But man, the Old Testament is really freaking amazing metaphorically. And it's just basically impossible to read literally. You just go, what the hell? But if you read it metaphorically, it's so funny because it's like, it is true metaphorically. It's like these concepts and these things you find, they're literally true about reality in the metaphorical sense, right? Which is what's crazy about it. So, and I think that's why Jordan Peterson always gets tripped up, because they're like, do you really believe this? It's like, well, I believe that the concept is a true concept. Like the point of the story is true. So I would act like I believe it, right? It's almost like, imagine someone's like, oh, I'm not scared of the bear and I don't think it's going to hurt me, but they're shaking with fear and they run away. What do they really believe, right? Even if they think in their head they're not scared, if they run away and they're shaking, what do they really believe, right? So it's like, that is the thing where Jordan, that's the like, weirdness that Jordan Peterson constantly gets caught in, because I don't think he really, it's funny in the Exodus series, some of these dudes believe literally the stories and some don't. And so it's like they kind of try to keep from debating it, but I don't think Jordan Peterson literally believes that like stories literally happen, because there's so much symbolic meaning that they almost just have to be fabricated for the point of the meaning, right? So that's a lot, but those are my thoughts. But I'm going to consolidate my thoughts more and more as I read and listen, and that's my plan. So let's get the photo dump real quick. Got some milk, baby. Okay. Let's go to our photos here. Photo dump. Wow, beautiful sunset here. You got, got another one. That's very pretty. It's very nice out here in the garden. Another one. Sunsets every day. Very nice. Spider of Death, which you saw. Oh my God, it's so sketchy, dude. Oof, hate it. Look at this sunrise. Look at the colors. I was like, holy crap, I went outside. It was just like pink life. I was like, wow. The gecko eggs, which I showed you already. Another sunrise. Dude, this is so funny. Look at this Grab driver, dude. He texts me this all the way. He says, sorry, mister. If you have a dog, mister, wait for me at the door because I am phobia dog. Mr. Sorry. I said, it's okay, dude. No dog. Don't worry about it. But I thought that was funny. This is what I found in the house. It's called a mole cricket. Very weird looking guy, isn't it? It's like a cricket with digging arms. And I put him in the ashtray, and then in the morning he was gone. And I know he was dead, but I think he got eaten by one of the geckos. This is the banner for this week's thing. Very pretty. Oh, and look at this mean comment this week. This was AIDS to listen to on my reel. Kind of funny. Gotta love a good AIDS insult. It's pretty funny. Okay. Glad we got through that. I had to try it. This was my 5th time trying to film this because it kept breaking, but we made it through this one. So anyways, there's a link in the description if you want to. Oh, the other thing which I didn't show you is I finished my ebook. This is the cover. There are a lot of stars in the sky, even when you can't see them. I'm starting a new like kind of marketing thing, and I'm gonna have this ebook be part of it. So it's very interesting. You'll see when it comes out, but it's full of like these inspiring stories and stuff. So that's pretty fun. And then there's a link in the description to sign up for my weekly updates if you want to sign up. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. 1, 2, 3, go.